lots of people are going to be here, but I wasn't sure. But it seems like there are a lot of lost souls in journalism, so welcome. I hope we are going to have an existential and also essential discussion here on stage amongst us, but of course also with you. And my name is Astrid Maier. I'm the Deputy Editor-in-Chief of DPA, which is Germany's largest news agency. I'm also the head of strategy. And I would like to ask my panelists to kindly introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, Stili Lambos, CEO and co-founder of Daily Maverick, based in South Africa.
And this is Uli Köppen. I'm part of German public broadcasting, Bavarian broadcasting. I'm responsible for data and AI there.
Hello, I'm Janine Gibson. I'm the editor of the FT Weekend, which is our Saturday and Sunday newspaper.
All right. Stili, my first question goes to you, because you told me that you grew the Daily Maverick from 5 people in the beginning to more than 112 years. So I was really wondering, when was the last time you thought about why your organization exists?
Yeah, we grew to just over 100 people in that time. We haven't been around for 112 years, although it feels like it. Yeah, the last time we asked, what is journalism for, and why do we exist as a newsroom, was probably also the first time we asked it after being in this business for probably 12 years or so. And it was part of a project to become more strategic in what we do and to basically strategically transform the organization. To do that, we had to go back to first principles, and we realized that everything that we did from here in the strategic transformation had to be based on some fundamental concepts of why journalism exists and what our interpretation of that is, and then that would then be something that we could build on top of. And so, how does our vision and mission relate to that? How is it aligned? What key business and editorial strategies do we use? What do we focus our limited resources on? And so you could see how this was all sort of working together and creating this alignment. But fundamental to all of that was, what is journalism for, and how do you interpret that? How do you debate that? How do you create the opportunity for people to give input into something this fundamental and strategic? And so we went back and we gave people readings, and we said, the constitution of the country asked us to do a special job, so let's take that into account. We looked at journalism textbooks, and we even looked at spiritual textbooks like, The Road Less Traveled. And so there were some extracts and readings, and we had that. We had guest speakers in, and so we really took our time to be deliberate about it and to get to an interpretation that we were happy with, that would guide everything else from here. And we ended up with 2 reasons or 2 reasons why journalism exists, or our interpretation of that. And the first one is to be a watchdog for society and to protect democracy as asked by our constitution. And the second one is to be a guide dog, is to help people navigate life. So if we can use that as the basis for all our journalism and what we decide to invest our resources and our time, and we use this in our planning and our monitoring, then that's going to help us be better publishers.
Mm-hmm. And this sounds very deliberate and very sophisticated. Why did you do this?
It was necessary, right? We were, as an organization that had grown, that was working mostly in a distributed fashion, we were starting to notice that some things were going sideways. There was a feeling of lack of direction. There was a feeling of lack of clarity. And so we also needed to, if we were going to embark on this strategic transformation, we needed to do all these things in a systematic manner, in a structured manner that made sense, that people could be part of. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately, once all that hard work is done, then we knew that once we started measuring things, we'd done the hard work to know why they mattered.
Mm-hmm. And what impact did it have? Could you measure it?
Oh, it was explosive. We had, within a few months of starting this, we started noticing how our audience was growing. We were getting positive feedback from search algorithms and discover algorithms. We were getting feedback from readers who were noticing that we were starting to create journalism that was more relevant to them. And with that, the audience grew. And I think in the time that we ran this project over 2 years, we grew by like 300% in terms of audience, when the global average for news was minus 15. And with that, we grew all our other key metrics: registered users, newsletter subscribers, and members.
Very interesting. Janine, the FT, I think, doesn't need an introduction. Everybody in this room knows the FT. It's been around. It's been around since 1888. Why does the FT still exist?
Well, I mean, at essence, because people pay for it, and we thank them very much for it every day. It's an interesting question because clearly, as a startup, your user needs are so fundamental to defining what you're going to be. And I've worked for a startup, and we spent plenty of time working out exactly what we wanted to be for our users, because otherwise the world is limitless and full of possibilities. Conversely, the danger when you've been around since 1888 is that everybody just thinks they know the answer. We know why we exist, we know what is the FT and what isn't the FT, and so therefore never questions it, which can be equally dangerous. We've just actually embarked on a user needs exercise to try and isolate the core of what we do and to define it, not just for ourselves and for our users, but also for new joiners, for people who we hope will carry on the sense of what the FT is for decades to come. For us, it's interesting, the Financial Times, because we are two things. We are a B2B publication and a B2C publication, all in the same thing. We have clients who pay, subscriptions for their entire company, and in that situation, you would expect an extremely strict, very defined, and value-based user need, where they can. It will usually be sort of financial news, business news, deep dives, data, highly specialist newsletters, and we've started to launch many niche newsletters to really be there for your business need, premium services. Those are incredibly specific and relatively easy to define need cases. For B2C, it's much harder. And I think a much more, you use the word existential, but I think necessary as the industry changes shape, as players retreat or reform what they're doing, it's incredibly important that we keep an eye on what we are needed and meant to do in the face of, frankly, limitless possibility. I'll just quickly, and then I will stop talking, list the things that I wrote down that we do just as part of who we are. Finance, economics, international news, world news, commentary, arts, politics, books, dance, theatre, pop, opera, classical, work, careers, property, gardens, fashion, luxury, investigations, interviews, the best magazine in the news industry. That is the core of the FT.
Thank you for this poetry slam.
I mean, in a sense, we are, how do you define what you are? We're just everything. If you would like to read it, we do it. Clearly, that's not sustainable. On one level, user needs approach can end up just being how you organise. It can be nothing more than a sort of tagging tool. You've come to the site, the app, the paper for, what did you say, how to navigate life? I really like that. Or protect democracy. And we would just point you to the bit that you need for navigating life, buying a yacht, or protecting democracy, bringing down a government. And you can just do that, or you can use it to fundamentally question what you should and shouldn't be doing. That's more challenging, but I think that it's inevitable.
Mm-hmm. So to question what you should be and what you shouldn't be doing, Uli, you work for one of the biggest German national public broadcasters. You are heading their AI lab. Why does the Bayerische Rundfunk exist, and what does that mean for the work that you do in the lab?
Yeah, good question. That is the perfect segue to public service journalism, to be honest, because we are doing journalism for everyone. And that is kind of crazy because user interests are getting more and more fragmented. You all know that because news streams is tailored to your interests on your phones, and you're expecting that when you're coming to us. But we have to serve everyone, and of course we are trying to do it in a similar way. So we're trying to address niche audiences. We try to target people. We try to do it with public service means. And my job at the broadcaster is to look at how technology can help us do this and serve our mission best. And of course, this is something we had to define as well. So I think the definition of what your mission is and redefining that over and over again is the first thing I'm always consulting people when they ask me, what should I do with AI? And AI is something, I mean, it's the big buzzword, or technology or digitalization, you can take it as an umbrella term, is something that should serve you to do your mission and to serve your audience best. And for us, it is public service personalization, for example. So we defined certain ways to personalize, for example, regionalization, because that is our USP. We want to support with algorithms as well. Or versioning, like serving people the way they want to read and consume the news. Is it bullet points? Is it long? Is it audio? Is it video? So making news seamless is something what we are doing with technology and how we try to serve our public service mission. But back to your question, Astrid, we have to ask ourselves every day if we're delivering to that mission, because of course we're getting public money, so we have to serve the public.
And can you give us maybe 2 concrete examples of something you decided to do because it plays into your mission, and something that you said, no, we could do it, but we don't because that's not, not
For example, we did a personalization prototype on audio, and it personalizes our audio stream and our audio news for our users, and it's doing it in a regional way. So we took our linear audio and we segmented it with an algorithm, and we make it available to people who say, I'm interested in the news at a certain zip code, for example. You can locate me, and then we are gathering the news that happened around this place, and people can have their personalized audio podcast, for example. So this is a translation for us to serve regional audio news and regional audio user needs. And this is for us also a metrics to decide which project to take on. Because, you know, AI is so general that we could do everything all over the place, and we have to prioritize. So we are prioritizing according to user needs and according to projects that serve our mission. And what we decided against, for example, is we don't use synthetic voices right now, because it's our USP that we have people who speak at a microphone. And also for this prototype, we decided to take the voices of our journalists, because also in user tests, people told us that they really liked having different voices in the news, and also with the dialect, because regional is important for us. So also that was related to our mission.
Mm-hmm. So listening to the 3 of you, it seems like having this mission and vision statement is really helpful to come up with a strategy that really makes sense. And it seems to be something very, something that tech companies apply, startups apply. So I looked up the mission of OpenAI, which is, just a second, to ensure AGI benefits all of humanity. So they think that they will get to AGI. It's not even if they are going to get there. But if you talk to people in management in the media industry, sometimes if you ask them if they have done this work, if they know their mission and vision statement, they sometimes look at you as if you're a lunatic. Still, do you have an explanation for that? Because obviously in your case, it was so helpful to know what you are doing.
Yeah, we were only explicit about that later on as well. I mean, as a startup, you kind of, as founders, you're intrinsically involved, hands-on involved in a lot of things. But I think the challenge for the news industry is that because the audience is so wide, in the case of a country or a region, you're covering such a breadth of all of this, it's hard to kind of bring it down into something that is actionable. Whereas, you know, tech startups will have a very focused vision and mission, or even product set that they believe will be brought into the world with that. But so it's hard. I think that's the first reason. And then also because, you know, as organizations get old and mature, they get complacent, or they feel like everyone should know. When we did a survey asking people if they knew what the vision was, only half of the people in our organization did. Mm-hmm. And so that had to go back and be worked into the training, and then again be debated, and then how do you interpret this, but also how do you action it? And that for us was also, there was a step missing in those steps from earlier, and we had to introduce that for the first time. But it's, how do you make this practical to the extent where we should be able to be recognized by our vision and mission statements, and a lot of companies are.
Mm-hmm. And was there any, like, I don't know, people who were maybe skeptical and pushing back?
Oh yes, many. Yeah, no, it's we've all worked in newsrooms before, being newsroom adjacent, and there's a lot of change is difficult, right? New ideas are difficult. There's a lot of worry about corporatizing. We as coming from a startup, it's one of our biggest fears. We don't want to ever get old and slow and all those things, or be bogged down with bureaucracy. And so we have to, and that's where leadership comes in. That's where sharing the vision of the change project comes in, being able to visualize it like that and be able to get people on board and be collaboratively involved in the process. So all of those things are important, and language matters, having a change plan matters, measures of success, having a coalition to kind of help you work through this. And so being systematic about that greatly increased our chances of success with it.
Mm-hmm. Janine, you are heading the FT Weekend. Does the FT Weekend have its own mission or reason to exist?
Well, we have hang on. Poor Uli has been designated to tell me to turn the microphone on because I'm very old. We have a number of taglines that we use to sell various bits of what we do, or to explain the rationale behind them. But the mission statement of the Financial Times is to be a friendly critic of capitalism without fear or favour. That is one of those august missions that you only get if you've been around for a couple of hundred years or so. And I deeply approve of mission statements. They should be inspiring. They are fantastic. They should put your shoulders back and make you feel great. The problem is they rarely tell you what not to do, or when to stop doing the things that you've been doing. And for that you need data. And we work in the era of, if something is red, then therefore it's good, and if it isn't, then it isn't. And we can see that in black and white. But that isn't complete either. That doesn't make a full set of decisions, because media brands, especially expensive storied ones, are loved. Your news brands, your media brands, you love them. You have an emotional connection to them. You rate something very, very highly, and that might be the reason that you buy your newspaper or go to the websites or the app. It might be the crossword, and but that might be your point of connection with the whole brand. So you've got to factor that in as well. So somewhere when we're talking about why does your news organisation exist, I think you have to deploy a big mission statement which is inspiring, and the data, which is a sense check, but you also need emotional intelligence. That, to me, is the tripartite equation.
Mm-hmm. Uli, what is your thinking about user needs? Because I think this year at Perugia there are two main topics, and one of the main topics, of course, is AI. It's dominating, and then the second one is user needs. That's at least my impression. What is your thinking around user needs, and also applying it in an organization like the Bayerische Rundfunk, or per se in journalism?
Well, I think user needs are also, the concept of user needs is around for some time now, and AI data informs that, of course, in a way you just described. So we know much better what our users want, who they are. Perhaps we not so much, because we retain from really completely analyzing our users because of our public service mission, but of course we also know how our content is received, but not well enough, I would say. And I would argue for something very strange as a data person. I would argue for just going out and talk to people, because as soon as I visit my family, I see how all the discussions we're having here on this panel, and also having in our newsrooms, they clash with reality somehow. So if I go back, I'm coming from a small village in Bavaria, people are not interested in AI, or are not interested in user needs. They just have certain needs, and we have to understand them as a journalist. You can only understand them if you go out and talk to them. So I would argue for carving out time in our CEO's schedules and in our own schedules to just go out and talk to people that are out of our bubble. Because I'm living in a very, very dense bubble, and stepping out of that is always a culture clash. It's not very, not very comfortable to ask them the question, how are they consuming the news? Because you'll find out they won't consume your news and they won't consume what you find cool. And this has nothing to do with data. I would argue data is great and we should use it and we should try to analyze the hell out of it, but also step out of your newsroom and talk to people.
Just to reinforce that, we have a day at the FT every year, which is led by the CEO, where all 250 members of the senior management group, a group that is neither especially senior nor involves many managers, but anyway, there's 250 of us. We all have to talk to a subscriber and interview them and then report back to everybody else about what our subscriber said. So we're all paired with a paying customer, and they are not always kind.
Talking about AI, I think one of the biggest fears for our industry is that people will get used to using personalized chatbot. We have talked about personalization, and then probably lots of media brands will just disappear out of that chatbot. So what if nobody cares anymore if we do exist? Does ambition and vision help us to solve this problem?
Yeah, absolutely. If I think what Daily Maverick's vision is, we want people who spend time with our journalism to know more and to know better. And if we use that as a guide, right, we're going to go and find something new, something original, something that is going to help people know more and know better. And that's to have better discussions, take better decisions, and navigate this thing called life. So chatbots may, and I think they will probably come for those commoditized operators first, who are struggling struggling for their place to exist. But if you are creating value in people's lives, then you've got a reason for existence, right? If you have a relationship, if you're building a community, if you're serving a community, if you see journalism as a service rather than just a product that you're shoving down people's throats, then there will always be a place for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you think chatbots know why they exist?
Let's ask.
That is an interesting question. I think chatbots are just another way to interact. So the chatbots won't cost us our lives as media orgs, but I think there is something behind those chatbots we have to acknowledge as journalists, because what is really worrisome to me is what happens with generative search right now. Like, all those great summaries that are already out there, and generative search being rolled out in the US and in other countries, coming soon in Germany this year. This will change the way how people interact with our content, and we already know it will influence the traffic we have, and we will, again, have this discussion, what is our relationship to platforms, like we're used to with social media. But this discussion is really hot right now, and I don't have definitive answers to that. I guess no one has it right now. So does chatbots cost us our existence? No, but perhaps generative search. And I guess that is very polarized right now, but it really puts us in a weaker position as we've been before.
Mm-hmm. Janine, I know the FT has been one of the first global newspapers that has put up a paywall and has been very successful with that. What are the biggest fears around this new wave of chatbots when you think about your own business model and your raison d'être?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. We're building our own for premium subscribers. I've only seen the prototype. I was extremely skeptical. It's very good. It obviously it helps people express their own user needs in a very direct way. Obviously, in a sense, it hastens the necessity for us to be able to define our content, both historical and new, more accurately, because the chatbot's only as good as you can, as the information you give it. So if I'm asking you to tell me the latest about what's going on in the insurance industry, That only works if we've tagged everything correctly and everything, which is not as obvious as it might seem. Again, when you've got 200 years worth of archive. I'm quite excited, cautiously, for this method of interrogating journalism. I imagine, but then I've been in digital journalism for 15 years. I feel like since search and social, we've actually been in a period of relative stability. It hasn't felt like it because they all change their algorithms every fortnight, but actually the sense of it pivots from us telling you what you want to read to you come to us and find what you want has just been evolving for 15 years. And this is another exciting opportunity to examine what we do, make it more functional to your life and get closer to you. That's got to be good. We will make some terrible mistakes, by which I do not mean the FT, I mean the industry.
All right. I would really love to make this more interactive, so I would like to open up the stage now for your questions, and if there are some, and then we can go back to our... Oh, there's a question in the back from Dimitri.
Hi, I'm Dmitry Shishkin. I just wanted to say how lovely it is to actually hear about user needs in that way, and little did I know that when I started this work at the BBC in 2015 that this is what is going to happen 10 years later, so thank you for that. But apart from the four main axes of user needs, that people want to know something, understand something, feel something, and learn and do something, is there anything, because I really would like to challenge everybody in the room and maybe in the panel as well, is that I so far have not been able to find new user needs that we have been gathering for years and years now, but have you? That would be quite an interesting thing to hear. Thank you.
Well, I guess you're the expert concerning user needs. I guess there will be new user needs when there is a new way to interact with content, and that is coming up with generative search or generative news experience, AI-mediated media. So I think there are user needs coming up, like, for example, a few years ago, that people really wanted to have conversational journalism, as you said. And I guess we're about to explore that. But having the possibility to create the format at your side as a user will be something we're going to explore a lot. And this is something that is very much AI related.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts?
Well, it feels slightly like a trap. It feels on eat journalism? No, that's... At BuzzFeed, we focused a great deal on the emotional connection of the journalism and why you would want to share it. And I'm not sure we ever explored the other three user needs that you just described, because we managed to find 25 subsections of the emotional connection and the need to share and why you might want to share. And we were even boiled down into sorting the content by, you have had a row with your friend from school of 25 years, but you went to school in Cardiff, so 25 things that only people that went to school in Cardiff know. There you go, that was a user need. So I guess if we were going to find another one, it would be through the ever winnowing within one of your subsections.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to add something else?
Yeah, not to answer the question directly, but we found that pairing user needs with, as user needs being how you cover something, pairing that with a why you cover something was really powerful. And so adding that extra dimension of why you commission something, why you choose to have a section about something, or why you choose to cover a theme that responds to sort of, as a national publication, the national needs of the country, then that sort of matrix really helps focus resources and gets great results as well.
Mm. And I must say, I'm not even sure why do we need more user needs, because in the end, I think human beings are very undercomplex. So we have just a certain kind of needs, and do we need more needs so that we can grow faster? I would be interested to know what you were thinking, Dimitri.
Well, I guess when the BBC created this model, we only had 6 user needs, right? And then in the last 2 years, we have added 2 more, all to do with actionability, because all the audiences nowadays want to do something about the news that they read. That's why
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions? Yes, here. Okay, sorry, but we will get to you.
Hi. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Cindy Nanclares. I'm an independent multimedia journalist, and it's great to hear legacy publications question, their role and sort of reinvent themselves. I'm wondering for, so many news outlets shutting down and so many layoffs and so many changes in the industry, also so many new outlets coming out, wondering sort of your advice on how to question even those new outlets on their existence, so that it sort of start, or for me as a content creator, and wondering if you have some advice on why what the foundation should be for those new news outlets.
Still, you should go first, right?
So you're asking why we as other people in the news, or what we as news consumers should...
Sort of like, as new outlets get created, sort of how we can question the existence of those outlets and build from a strong foundation of understanding audiences, etc. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Sorry, is the we, who's the we that is questioning?
New outlets. Like outlets that are being created, and new platforms, new ways of creating storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to go?
Well, how do you go about defining a mission from scratch if you're starting up?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's massively important, because it's going to set you in a direction that's going to help you create a unique proposition, hopefully a unique proposition that's going to help you stand apart from someone else, right? And so you've got to be filling a gap, creating a need, servicing a need, and doing it in a way that is hopefully new and novel and creating value. We often see a lot of commoditized stuff just coming in, working on a volume type basis, like not really adding any value. And there's a lot of that, and that's just going to get, commoditized straight out of the ecosystem and potentially do more damage than good. And I think that's why it's really important to have this stuff as foundational stuff that you can build everything on, that's going to last for years and years and years.
Right. So you have to start with differentiation, because nobody's coming to you automatically. So you've got to be doing something clearly that is into market failure, or as we might call it, just different or innovative, which is also the question you have to ask yourself every day in a legacy organisation, because what on earth is the point of doing something which everybody else is doing as well? And that's pointless.
Mm-hmm. Adding up to this, how many people in this room know the mission and the vision statement of your companies that you work for? Okay.
That is impressive.
Prove it.
Very good.
Because I want to raise one thing, because all of you seem to know the strategy. I found it very hard to translate strategy. So I'm not sure if in any newsroom in the whole world you would ask this question, so many people would raise their hands, because I somehow find strategy oftentimes very disconnected from the newsroom. And I'm always wondering how you can fix that, and how you can raise interest to rewrite that mission together, because I guess the mission is something we have to write together. I mean, we as a public service broadcaster, we have a mission that is written for us, and we have to fulfill it. For us, it's a little different, but even with this big mission, we have the chance to rewrite submissions. When we started our AI and automation lab 4.5 years ago, we had to place ourselves somewhere in the news cycle. And we had a great time with the whole team to define where we want to go and how this really, pays off for our overall mission. But to make this happen, like to make the newsroom part of the mission writing, I don't know what it takes to do that, and if that really makes the pay-in better. Just a question for the panel.
I think it also depends, if I might say, on the culture and how ripe your culture is for that. I'm sure there are some organizations where this is going to be really great and you are going to get a lot of alignment, and then some others maybe you will need to take it step by step. But of course, at one point you need to open it up and to have everyone buy in and to know the mission and the vision statement. And before Janine is going to jump in, I know, Stili, when we prepared for this panel, you told me about the first claim that you had, which was very technical, and how you thought about it to reframe it so that people would be more enthusiastic, this data.
Right.
Yeah, that's a very good example.
Yeah, so this strategic transformation of the entire organization was... I wrote the plan after a year at CUNY at the exec course, and the title of the project was called Data-Driven Audience Centricity, which I thought was an amazing title, and it explained everything that we wanted to do until someone pointed out to me that absolutely no one will buy into that piece of crap unless you change the title. And so that's when we changed it to Securing Our Future, because no one's going to argue against trying to secure the future. And so that's why I said language matters, and how you present it, how you roll it out, how you include people in it. And so, yeah, all of that's important.
And how do you present it? I want to learn.
Pictures, mostly.
Okay. Okay. Janine, I think you wanted to add something to this?
Well, I was just going to say that journalists, by aptitude and learning, aren't usually great with phrases such as mission statement. So if you call a bunch of reporters into a room and say we're going to have a chat about the mission statement, you're going to meet some resistance and a lot of eye rolling, and they might have a point. The shorter the better. So you do have to think about how you frame the purpose of what you're doing. Otherwise, it will look to your workforce, who are hired solely because they're very good at being skeptical and seeing through bullshit. Will sit there and look at you like, why are we here and what is this waste of money? So you better get very quickly to what the point of it is and how it relates to journalism.
There was a question.
Thank you. Federica from the Reuters Institute. Alongside, of course, the question on why does the organization exist is who does the organization exist for? And you mention, of course, in some cases is niches, in some cases is B2B or B2C. We know also that in a world where the competition for attention is so high, a lot of work has been put in making sure that you can maximize the loyalty relationship for your loyal audience. And so a lot of our digital properties are very optimized for those audiences who would come to you more often, pay, whether it's like a subscription, pay a membership, pay with their attention. Is there a tension there between optimizing for the loyal audience you have and you need and trying to reach the audiences that you don't have at the moment? We know from research that some of the content that is really engaging with a super loyal audience, live blogs, people who really care about news, is putting off people who don't really buy into that much. Do you see a conflict between the two? And if you do, how do you navigate that, serving both the super loyal audience, but also the audience you might want to reach and you're not reaching yet?
Mm-hmm. Does any of you want to? Otherwise I cannot.
Yeah, you mentioned something earlier where you said we're actually simple creatures, in a way, or something along those lines. And there are common needs that every human has. And so when we looked at it as a national publication, like serving the most unequal country on earth with the highest unemployment rate on earth, what do you cover? Right? And so, in that sense, we were doing a national needs assessment that was going to cut across 11 different languages with this inequality. And so, you had to work hard to try and figure out what are those things that will appeal to, the poorest person and the richest person. And that takes a lot of hard work and research to interrogate that.
Sure. Anyone else?
I'm really interested in your question because I think it's fundamental. It's something we talk about a lot. Obviously, an FT subscription is quite expensive. We spend quite a lot of time demonstrating engagement and value to the subscribers, whether they are consumer or business. And I've worked for 3 different, I mean, we're really talking about business models and how content relates to business models. I have worked for 3 different places with very different models. The Guardian, which has a membership model, BuzzFeed, which has a please everybody model, and the FT, which is obviously heavily paywalled. The interesting thing is, the journalism isn't that different, and the way you do journalism and the types of journalism you do doesn't vary considerably. We did a lot of live blogs at The Guardian. We think we invented them for news. Others may disagree, probably the BBC. We also do live blogs. They're a bit slower, they're semi-live, and they're a bit deeper, and they're not on the same subject. But interestingly, we find our subscribers, our users, come to our live blogs because they are Googling events that they want to find news about, what's the latest on X or Y, and then that's how they come in to the site. Even though they pay an enormous amount of money, a very reasonable amount of money, to subscribe to the Financial Times, they still come in via Google because they're looking for the latest thing. And when I discovered that, it absolutely changed my perspective on how a business model affects your journalism, because actually the things that you know about how you want to consume journalism and facts apply according to all methods.
Actually, for us, it was not really a tension. We did a data analysis a few years ago, and you just said the numbers were jaw-dropping for us as well. We understood how big the money is we are putting in the overserved community. And we mapped it. We invented a map, not our team, but other teams, and you had this huge continent of the overserved with all the formats and the money going in, and then we had a few islands of the underserved where we had some formats serving them. And since then, we're shifting resources. We're shifting resources to formats that serve, of course, younger people, certain segments of younger people, segments of people with a different language, and this works very well. And also to having this visualization is great in the newsroom. It's really hanging on the wall, on all the walls in the newsroom, that we have to, that we understand every day who we are producing for. And now this map was revisited, and now the islands have grown a little bigger, and that's a great motivation.
All right. Are there any more questions from the audience? It doesn't seem to be the case. No. Well then, thank you very much for participating in this strategy one-on-one class. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for your questions, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Vivi l'Umbria, con la politica di coesione dell'Unione Europea.